Hello auditory, it's been a long time since our last review, but today we're gonna have the PS5 exclusive and this is God of War Ragnarok. So I was playing God of War for more than 25 hours and I didn't get to the 30% of the fucking plot. This game is massive. The locations, the design, the level design, the graphics, the gameplay is outstanding. I've seen some bitches was saying that this is not the full game, this is a DLC, but this is not a DLC. Those who are thinking like that, they are won the fucking life, I guess. But no, they are just over in their borders and they don't understand nothing at all, nothing. So first of all, we have the first part of the God of War. And this was outstanding. He was playing for the father who was protecting his son, and after you got the sequel, I mean God of War Ragnarok 2, and now you have opportunity to play for a kid. That's a nice little addition to the new gameplay. So what do you expect, motherfuckers? What do you expect? You expect everything that Santa Monica Studio will change the whole fucking gameplay? No, of course not. They are making the prolongation of the plot and making the story more interesting. Jeez, I hate those stupid motherfuckers, but okay. Well, returning for a long execution to Svartalheim, which is the way to Charty companions, Kratos walks into his bedroom and sits in silence. He reflects his increasingly strained relationship with his son Audrey. His normally unshakable stoicism cracks just enough allowed to rare moment of vulnerability shine through, as you can almost catch a tear about to roll down his cracked face before he retreats to sleep. That one place when he can heal. It's both the best and most understated moment in the game that lovely to lay on the thing. The PlayStation exclusive action adventure is undoubtedly impressive work, but Kratos does battle with a familiar foe here, the sequel syndrome, and trying to one-up 2018 phenomenal and self-reflexive God of War reboot developed by Santa Monica Studio took his more and more approach to development. There are more characters, more exploration, more puzzles, more quips, more bosses, you name it. If you are something you loved about the Kratos last going, you can bet you will see twice as much of it here. God of War Ragnarok is much bigger than its predecessor. Throughout not entirely better, it's more reminiscent of the jump between the original God of War in 25th and God of War 2, offering a largely similar experience down to its plot beats. The larger scope makes a messier story that loses some of previous game intimacy, but the trade-off even sharper combat that further established the franchise as a god of action names. So God of War Ragnarok is more a part 2 than a sequel. Obviously, it continues the story of reformed god killer Kratos and his son Audrey, which was left feeling a little unfinished in 2018 after the duo endeavorly unleashed in the early Flimboom winter. The tale picks up 3 years later here, with a long winter finally coming to an end, which means the cataclysm Ragnarok isn't far behind according to the prophecy. As you can probably imagine from the description, the sequel takes some much greater narrative swings than its preceded. While the last installment was a reference-contained drama about the Kratos-standard relationship with his son, Ragnarok is more a sprawling epic that more broadly focused on its retelling Norse mythology. For instance, its cast characters significantly expand with more imposing gods like a Thor, Odin, and voice-talking sidekicks that quip like they quoting a superhero movie. While the story is entertaining enough as mythological romp, it's a bit of a step down both in context of the Kratos' previous adventure on its own merits in 2018. God of War was a groundbreaking moment for the video game narratives it launches largely because the game is conversation without its past. It re-examined the hyper-violent series and deftly spun into the moving story about grieving father who desperate to make sure his child doesn't inherit its mistakes. It's an enigmatic game that keeps the focus on a handful of well-developed characters. Ragnarok follows up on those ideas, albeit it's much less focused on the introspective mana, potentially throughout takeaways about parenting complete for the time with vague musings about the nature of war and teenage troopers. There's little room for a subtly as shoddy characters trying to bring down their entire emotional state on one another to fill every moment of silence during the exploration. The general pacing suffers from the scope increase increased too with the expanded quest, creating more narrative side diversions that can interrupt the core story for hours at the time. It feels like less of the game and more a TV show blueprint. If Sony anticipated that it probably would need more characters if you wanted to turn it into the multimedia juggernaut like The Last of Us. Unsurprisingly, the story in its best when it quiets down to focus on Kratos and Atreus' relationship. Amid all apocalyptic noise, there is a beautiful story here about the father learning to trust his son and cherish the time he has left with him before he's whisked away by adulthood. Series veteran Christopher Judge sells those tender moments with a tremendous performance as Kratos, playing the most vulnerable version of character we haven't seen to this date. There is a touching moment that sticks with me as I reflect the messy adventure during the trip to Valheim. The animal-loving Atreus insists that Kratos stopped to free a jellyfish imprisoned in the sand. The two travelers took a long dungeon working together to get creature out. At the end, Atreus wonders why the Kratos would halt his world-saving quest for a necessary rescue mission. The answer is simpler than Atreus thinks. Kratos just wanted to spend as much time as he can with son, with time they have left together, come death or cataclysm. By the end of my journey, I wish I could have more of these moments with them too. So this is a big philosophical game. Okay. The big change here is increased emphasis on elemental attacks. Holding the triangle button frees Kratos' axe while rapidly pressing it set blazes on the fire. Both give Kratos access to even more attacks, rendering out his already impressive moveset via skill tree. There is much better incentive to actually use the attacks too. Perform them enough times and players can be add modifier to an individual mode, boosting its damage, stun and more. This adds a new layer of customization to the mix that lets players personalize an otherwise straightforward set of moves. The system goes hand in hand with the RPG framework introduced in 2018, which remains a little hit and miss here. Stats increase still feel negligible, making the numbers go up. Equipment chase feel more trying than satisfying. However, geo perks shine more this time. By the end of the game, I was wearing a clothing that would allow me to heal by finishing enemies like Doom and freeze time with the rolls like the Bayonetta. I especially appreciate that Ragnarok gives me more opportunities to build mine to the test. In the previous game, the only true skill check came from blasting through the Valkyrie fights that drew Dark Souls companions. A variant of this returned here, but the more memorable monsters beyond that, which pushed me to utilize every tool in my arsenal. One fight against a massive beast locked in a treasure vault pushed me to master my otherwise ignored parrying skills, which deepened my approach to the battle the rest of my journey. So right from the one game's opening sequences, it's clear that Santa Monica Studio is sticking closely to a formula this time around. The 2018 game most memorable narrative beats are echoed here in a manner that feels a little calculated, as if working from a side deck of what fans responded while trying to double down. In fairness, this is a critic you could raise against about any game sequel. Well, actually, we can remember about the Horizon Forbidden West. I'm still finishing this game with the side quest and opening all for the platinum, but this game is outstanding. In the Horizon Forbidden West, you got the open world. Oh, wait. This is the God of War. This is the God of War review. Okay, so let's move on. God of War 2018 was praised for this similar small open world area, the Lake of Nines, which allowed Kratos and Atreus to sail around in search of sequential side quests. The idea is repeated here in multiple open spaces across the 9 realms that follow the same general format. What worked in 2018 still very much works here. Exploration is extremely rewarding thanks to the massive spaces are filled with valuable treasure and relevant elemental puzzles. Side quests are still a high side too, as some of the best narrative moments come from the entire optional content. One of the earliest side missions has the Kratos feeling trapped, the whale whose body turns into the own puzzle island, a Straudat quest that cleverly reflects Kratos' own insecurities. I could help but feel like moments tended to blur together this time through. The glut of puzzles, the increasing in collectibles, the excuse of small talk while riding around between the locations, the little in stick with me in the same way that my previously compact trip around the Lake of the Nine still does to this day. Sure, it's fun, but overexplore makes individual moments stand out less in the grander realm jumping adventure. It's not better, it's not worse, it's just more. It doesn't help the Ragnarok doesn't feel like as much as an improvement on the technical side either. Despite running on PS5, this is very much feels like a PS4 game down the way it hides loading with the clever realm trick. Ultimately, it's not something that bothers me. Ragnarok is inseparable from the procedure and only fair that fans would have upgraded yet to get actually see and complete story through to its end. But it doesn't add the feeling stagnation further building to its grade, but safe with God of War 2. So, that was all about the positive. Let's up the summary. So the Kratos best characterization yet, fantastic combat, more customization options, rewarding exploration. But about the cons, uneven story, RPG systems still don't click, and it's still technically staged. Recently it has been updated 2 or 3 days ago, and I didn't feel any updates. Probably they fixed some bugs, but anyway, I'm still making my day and my evening with this beautiful masterpiece of art, because this game on the next level. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment and subscribe. Bye.